Shonda, who wrote Princess Diaries 2 for me, Anne Hathaway I discovered, and Blake Lively, and Jesse Williams. I mean, so now all of a sudden I like got the in with, you know.
But it's such an important point because I think these relationships are the things that hold you up in the world.
Yes.
And you have to stay close to them. I mean, I have this great relationship with John Legend, which is because of you, because remember that night you said,
Yes, honey, I called Nina, I said, they called me, his producing partner called, they need a lawyer. Nina was in the car that night, met me at John's house, signed John, and got the bonus of Chrissy.
Yeah, and got the bonus of
She
Chrissy.
represents the whole family.
And then John called me and said, well, there's this young woman, she's from Philly, blah, 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 on. And it turned out to be Quinta Brunson, who created this great show, Abbott Elementary. And all of these this all started with me going to John's house that night with you.
All right, hello, everyone. Welcome to this amazing assortment of powerhouse women who run the entertainment industry. Pretty much. Okay, so we're gonna get right down to it. It's a tough time in the entertainment industry. People are being laid off. Companies are going away. Companies are consolidating. You guys are in the trenches of it every day. So let's just let's get real. Your view, how bad is it right now in the entertainment industry? You have many decades of experience between you. Pearlena, we'll start with you.
How bad is it?
Yeah.
You know, look, I tend not to be an alarmist. You know, I think that there's probably lots of different times in our business when people thought it was the worst it's ever been. It's definitely challenging right now because I think there's been a lot of disruption in our business and people are being forced to rethink the business wholesale, which I think is really troubling for a lot of people. But I think in the midst of challenges, there's also opportunities to rethink the business, you know, and perhaps it's an opportunity for us to, you know, think about how do we do it differently and who we do it with differently. So, yeah, it's challenging, but I don't think it's necessarily horrible.
Here's two things. One, I have learned over the course of, 30 plus years, you have to stay open and stay nimble because there's this business is influenced by technology, culture, politics, global economy. So you have to try and live in the present, but also always look forward. But what I will say from the 30 years that I've been in this business, diversity is now a part of the business in a way that it has not been in the past. And part of that is a real recognition that there's money to be made. I mean, I was, making this argument for years that diversity was good business, and people were like, oh, I don't know. We haven't tried it out. We're scared to try it out, but now they know. And so there are more opportunities in many ways now than there were even a decade ago.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Nina, what's your thought?
Yeah, I tend to agree with my colleagues because this is something that we see in the business and we've seen all along. I can remember when cable TV, when the DVD world, so all these different things happened. And it always felt like we weren't going to move along. The truth of it is that people have become much more adept at doing things in different ways. For example, you see a number of people in the business who really are small business owners and they're doing them in their homes at their computers. So we see the advent of influencers and the way that they have impacted the business. Now that's a group in the business that didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they have changed in many ways the product. We're seeing children's programming moving away from networks and broadcasting and into YouTube. Mm-hmm. So every change is an opportunity, but it is a difficult time, and I certainly don't want to make, I don't want to not talk about the people in the business, many of the below-the-line people who are finding it very difficult to adjust, and we're seeing, I think, for them, a very, very tough time, but I have hope that we will come through it.
And yet, for each of you, I think it's worth acknowledging each of you in your own careers, whether it's in a studio system or whether it's in independent producing or whether it's as a legal representation for so many people, Ava DuVernay and John Legend and so many people. I can go on and on about all their credits. It's like absolutely remarkable we have on stage. We only have 20 minutes. So what allowed you to think that there was a place for you? Because there were no models for the people you were at a young age. And I want to talk about each of your paths because they're so remarkable, whether you're from New York or Illinois or Nigeria. It's an act of faith to create that path. And here you are now, still going strong, having incredible careers at a time where a lot of people are having to abandon the business, frankly, because it is so difficult. Nino, how did you project yourself into this sort of key role you have now?
In some ways, in a very odd way, it was a lack of opportunities that really made this so clear for me. I really didn't have, I remember when I had gone a very traditional path after Columbia Law School, gone to big law, and then from there was trying to get into the entertainment industry in the boutique law firms, and no one would hire me. It was just an amazing experience to be as experienced a lawyer I was with the kind of credentials I had and be unable to find a job. So I answered an ad in a newspaper and ended up in a small law firm with great lawyers who ultimately trained me to be an even better entertainment lawyer. And then when it was time for me, I felt it was time to strike out on my own, there wasn't really a lot of other options. It was so funny how a lack of options can make your path very, very clear. And I ended up beginning my law firm. We just had our 35th anniversary.
Wow.
And I think without being immodest, we are absolutely considered one of the top law firms in the entertainment.
We're both with her.
Both quiet.
It would have been kind of awkward otherwise. Okay.
Yeah, so sometimes when the doors all seem to be closed, your way forward actually is a bit clearer because it's going to be what you make it. And that was really the lesson that I took from this. And I had such a great family and so many strong women in my family that, they could do it. I had to do it.
Debra, how about you?
So I'd always loved film and television. My dad was a huge film and television buff. I was a lawyer. I practiced, Harvard Law School, big law firm, whatever. And I decided that what I really wanted to do in life was make movies. I didn't know that nobody who looked like us was making movies. So it was actually, when I got to Hollywood and I looked around and I'm like, really? And so, but I was determined to do it. I wanted to do it. And I figured other people are doing it, so I can do it, which has been my philosophy my whole life. So in some ways it was like, the ignorance of the situation, but also a belief in myself by that time because, I'd been successful at kind of everything that I tried to do. And this is the thing I really wanted to do. And I really wanted to have an impact on culture. I grew up not seeing people who looked like us or felt like us on the screen, and I wanted to change that.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about some of the shows that you've made over the course of your career that have changed the way popular culture appears on our screens. I can mention them. I mean, you did The Pelican Brief and the
I didn't do Pelican Brief.
You ran Denzel Washington's company.
I ran Denzel Washington's company. We did Devil in a Blue Dress and Courage Under Fire and The Preacher's Wife and.
I picked the one that you didn't produce. Okay.
I know, it's all
sorry. Okay, sorry.
Princess Diaries.
Then I say The Princess Diaries.
Cinderella.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Oh, one of my
Right? Okay, so stuff that...
Equalizer.
Okay, together. Yeah, so these are things that have really had a big impact on shaping what the conversation is, what's conventional wisdom, what's normal, what's interesting, what's cool.
And I'm really proud of it.
All right, and Thank you for that. And should be, yeah. Pearlena.
So, I was born in Nigeria, came to this country when I was very young, so I was obsessed with television because that's how I got acclimated to this country, and I think that's a similar story for a lot of, immigrants. And, TV teaches you, in some ways, like values, like what are you supposed to aspire to? What are you supposed to believe in? And so I had this deep-seated desire one day to work in television. But it's deep-seated because I never thought it would happen because I didn't know anyone who worked in TV. And it wasn't until I got to college and I was looking for a summer job one day, I saw on the board it said NBC was looking for summer associate.
Okay, college is Yale, by the way, so,
So it was like my mind exploded because I didn't know that people worked in television and they could pay you to make TV shows. So I applied, I got the job, and I spent 2 summers in New York, and it was like life-changing for me. I was in the business, and then I had to figure out how to get a permanent job in the business. That was not as easy as I thought. I applied everywhere, and no one wanted me. So I went to do something else and worked in financial services for a while. And then I decided when I want to go back into entertainment and figure it out, I went to business school and then eventually made my way into Showtime Networks on the marketing side, hoping one day I'd get to the entertainment side, and I did after a few years. And I came out to LA, and I was just determined to go forge my path. Now it's interesting because already where I was, I felt so improbable, that, oh my gosh, I'm this immigrant kid who's now in entertainment. I kind of felt like there's nothing I can't do because I've already done this. And what made me feel like there was a path for me? I went to an event and I saw this woman who was a producer. She had produced Courage Under Fire and all those other things that she produced. And I saw her and I said, oh my God, there's this Black woman who's a producer out there, producing these amazing shows. And by the way, always looking amazing. And so I thought, wouldn't it be great to try to, that maybe I could find, a path in there as well. So that's, it is a little bit of not knowing any better,
Yeah.
and sometimes not having another, option that sort of gets you there. And just, it's a slow and steady path. It wasn't like I had a friend or an uncle who called someone and got me into the job.
No.
Mine was, I say to people, I was a 30-year...
You guys are the anti-Nepo ladies.
You're right. I mean, I say to people, I was a 30-year overnight sensation, Like when I got this job, as chairman, I mean, it was kind of like, she came out of nowhere, and got this job. And, and that's, for some people, that was the perception. And for me, it was, steadily working in the business and hopefully performing well, to get this job.
I just want to mention a few of the shows that Pearlena's been involved. I don't only have a couple cards here, but at Showtime, Dexter, Nurse Jackie.
Yeah.
Is there anything you else want to mention from your Showtime moments?
Masters of Sex.
Masters of Sex, I love that series. Yeah. At NBC, she was responsible for shows like This Is Us, The Blacklist. You've heard of any of these shows? She's right now, she's in charge of NBC, like a lot of production that includes things you're not seeing.
If you've ever watched a Law and Order or a Dick Wolf show, that's what we do.
But then also Hacks, Girls Five Eva,
Girls Five.
Hacks, Emmy-winning Hacks.
Emmy-winning Hacks,
yes.
right.
The Gilded Age, Bel Air, Umbrella Academy. So
good.
really, yeah. Okay, stop there, Sharon. Okay, but I want to just also point out that, it looks like you're here and you've been here and it's always been like this, you talk about the beginning of your career and nobody would give you a job. But even when you're on the path of a career, there are moments that are really challenging. And when you ask yourself, can I continue to do this? Oh. And I just want to ask you, Debra, because you and I spoke. She was in Prague the other night at 11 p.m. talking to me, awfully nice, what she was location scouting. So that's, the job's fun for sure. But I mean, it's high risk. And you mentioned that, that's something, if I have it right, that 10 years ago
I was going to quit.
Yeah.
I was out.
So talk about that a
I
minute.
just, it was a time in the business, Nina knows for sure, because I was sitting over your house in tears. But it was just a time in the business where nobody was interested in making TV or movies about women of color, about people of color. It just was not happening. I would go in to pitch stuff, people's eyes would glaze over. And honestly, I do believe part of my success is that I have been on a mission. Like I said, I wanted to have an impact on culture and imagery. And so then all of a sudden I found myself just throwing stuff up against the wall. Like, oh, this is a story about a dude. It just didn't, it didn't have meaning for me. And if it doesn't have meaning for me, I can't sell it. I can't shape it. And so I said finally, I'm like, well, maybe this is the universe's way of saying it's been a good run. You need to think about doing something else. And so I literally I'd been at Disney for 20 years. Grateful for that, but also, had become kind of legacy wallpaper because everybody who was invested in me personally was long gone. And so I took a year, I was still working, but to explore other options. Should I practice law, film finance, blah, 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 whatever. And when I finally decided that, no, actually Vernon Jordan was the one who's a longtime friend. And I was 18, I knew him since I was 18 years old, and I went in and I told him this whole story.
Who was a known expert in the entertainment industry.
But
expert in life.
In life.
In life, okay.
And knew me well. And he sat there and he listened to me and poured my heart out, and he looked at me and he said, "You are too old to do anything else." He said,
what a warm hug.
Right. He said, you have a great reputation, you have great relationships, you have great experience. You need to figure out how to make it work. And it was that kind of boom, boom, that I was like, yes, you're right. And I want to say one thing. Literally, these women have held me up, and I know we've helped each other. And so and for this audience, it's really important to know for a long time, and that's important.
No, it is. Debra and I actually met. I was a summer clerk. Debra was a paralegal at this law firm, and it was me and her and Anita Hill. And we were like the three black women.
Right, yes.
And Anita was a summer clerk also.
Right, and I've known Pearlena since the very early
Since I ran into you,
right.
and I was, and now we work together. And now when I took over a studio, I said, what producers do I want to be in business with?
She called me, out of the blue and said, are you interested? And I'm like, yes, yes. So the sisterhood is really important.
I mean, that is so let's talk, there's representation that you guys have carved pathways for representation. You have created a sisterhood, and it's really visible throughout the industry. The number of women of color who are dominating in the industry, it is astonishing. It's Shonda Rhimes, who said that
she was
your
intern.
intern or something like that.
Yeah, when she was at
We talk
USC,
about mentorship.
Yeah.
Right. These things really do matter, and your careers are long enough that you're still working, and people who were your interns are now running the industry.
Who didn't know at the time, but are in their prime. From Shonda, who wrote Princess Diaries 2 for me, Anne Hathaway I discovered, and Blake Lively, and Jesse Williams. So now all of a sudden I got the in with,
But it's such an important point, because I think these relationships are the things that hold you up in the world.
Yes.
And you have to stay close to them. I have this great relationship with John Legend, which is because of you, because remember that night you said,
yes, honey, I called Nina, I said, they called me, his producing partner called, they need a lawyer. Nina was in the car that night, met me at John's house, signed John, and got the bonus of Chrissy.
Yeah, and got the bonus of
She
Chrissy.
represents the whole family.
And then John called me and said, well, there's this young woman, she's from Philly, blah, 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 on. And it turned out to be Quinta Brunson, who created this great show, Abbott Elementary. And all of this all started with me going to John's house that night with you.
Okay, so those are all words of wisdom. They're going to make me wrap, and I'm not going before I hear from each of you. 30 days to the election, Kamala or Trump? What's your guess?
Please.
Oh, come on. We know it matters to everybody on this stage. Not who are you voting for. Who do you think?
Oh, Kamala.
Kamala.
Pearlena?
Is this a question?
No, it's a guess. It's like a 3-word question.
Kamala?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, you heard it here. Thank you, guys.